All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Mcginty. I'm the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor. And I want to thank you for being here today and all the attention you've given to the case and the coverage you've given to this case on an important issue. Although profoundly, sir, do you mind? Although profoundly disappointed with today's verdict, I respect the legal process we have followed here, and we accept the judge's decision. I urge everyone else in Cleveland and elsewhere, especially those who shared our hope for a different outcome, to do the same. The rule of law, so fundamental to our American society, demands nothing less. Second, I want to thank the prosecutors and staff of the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office who worked and formed a team and worked with enthusiasm and dedication to achieve justice. I am extremely proud of this team. I'm extremely proud of the work they performed and we performed together. First, I want to thank and introduce Rick Bill, Chief of Special Investigations. Rick did an outstanding job on this case, working with the various coroners, forensics evidence, proving what happened here. We started with very, very little evidence and had little help, and were able to create evidence through the sounds, the ballistics, and angles that we worked. I want to also thank two of the major trial unit prosecutors, James Gutierrez and Sherry Royster. And I also thank a number of assistant prosecutors who also helped in this case: Erica Barnhill, Adam Chalupka, Alan Regas, our appellate unit chief and supervisor, Sarah Denny, an assistant prosecutor, and James Gallagher, a new assistant prosecutor. And we received help from law clerks Colin Show, Paula Hanna, and great oversight by the major trial unit supervisor, Sal Aladala, Lindsay Raskin, another assistant prosecutor, and Dwayne Deskins, behind me. There he is. First assistant prosecutor and juvenile division chief. I want to thank our communications and public policy director, Joe Froelich, and his assistant, Rihanna Corrales, Andy Nickel, our criminal division chief, Jane Platt, our chief of staff, and paralegal Linda Quinn, who did an enormous amount of work in this case. And I want to thank John Soraya, who is here somewhere. Okay, on behalf and representing the BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, the Ohio Attorney General Office. They did a tremendous amount of work in this investigation that began, an extensive investigation that began 2.5 years ago. I am extremely proud of all of their efforts and the case we presented. A series of tragic errors on November 29th, 2012, in a subsequent trial of Cleveland police officer Michael Brelo, forced all of us, the city, the community, and the police, to confront some tough issues that many would have preferred to avoid or postpone. The trial forced us to examine how and why so many errors were made and flawed assumptions made, and that could have led to the deaths of 2 unarmed people, and including a totally innocent, a trapped and essentially kidnapped mentally ill passenger and a panicked, disturbed petty criminal driver. After a chase of more than 20 minutes, 20 miles that involved more than 100 officers, that was led by a group of supervisors who ignored their training and division of police rules. To highlight the danger that an out-of-control police also pose to innocent public and to one another, one only need examine the friendly fire they inflicted upon their own police cars. Only by the grace of God we did not have a number of police deaths. I am convinced that this prosecution in this case will prevent future deaths of police and civilians in the future. If we all listen to the powerful and undisputable lessons that the Heritage Middle School shootout has taught us, there will never have to be another Brelo trial. If we correct the failures that made this tragedy possible, the city and its citizens do not have to suffer through another such fiasco. And let me cover some of these lessons. Number one, I believe the police department has developed a new appreciation for the necessity of real training for chases and when and if they are to be permitted. This has been demonstrated recently. The local media can elaborate on a very recent successful chase called off, and the person was arrested the next day. They had enough to identify him, as they did here. They had the plates. They knew who the individual was. The plates were good. The identification was solid. They didn't need to keep chasing him. Just pick him up the next day. He was not the Napoleon of crime. 2, second lesson, far more training in the understanding of the proper use of deadly force and in the methods of de-escalation before the last resort of killing a fellow citizen are obviously needed here. 3, discipline within a police department is absolutely necessary to maintain control and professionalism. If the rules are routinely disregarded, penalties must be imposed or history will repeat itself. In this case, Cleveland has disciplined. Cleveland has taken action. They have suspended or fired dozens of officers, and I believe this will discourage future disregard for their own rules. Civilian review and oversight from outside the department's insular culture would benefit this city and this department's performance. 4, this case also points out that retraining is needed for returning combat veterans who served in police departments. Soldiers are trained to kill the enemy at war. In high-stress situations, a veteran can easily revert to what has been taught to him by the military unless properly retrained as a civilian officer. They are very different jobs. In civilian crisis, de-escalation and patience are to the police advantage, and minimal level of force necessary to calm the situation is preferred. Lesson number 5, better equipment and coordination such as inexpensive road spikes or the productive use of a helicopter could help when chases are necessary. But one piece of equipment that is about to change our world in Cleveland and across the country, particularly Cleveland since we're going to be new at it, and will create absolute accountability, is the video cams. We're having video cams in Cleveland. The mayor has bought video cams, body cams for every police officer in Cleveland. And we have bought the dash cams through forfeiture funds that obtained from criminal prosecutions. The dash cams and body cams will become the unblinking, credible eyewitness to all that happens when police and citizens interact. Complaints of police misconduct will fall dramatically, as has been demonstrated in other cities, and the evidence obtained will greatly aid the prosecution of criminals, and the truth will prevail. Lesson number 6, the mentally ill account for a disproportionate number of the problematic use of force and deadly force encounters in Cleveland and elsewhere across the country. Many people who once would have been institutionalized now have no place to go. They cannot be controlled or treated at home. They oftentimes are incapable of sufficient income for proper treatment, and they end up homeless or in homeless shelters, under bridges, or on the streets, unmedicated, sometimes paranoid and schizophrenic and dangerous. And the drugs and alcohol they may use to self-medicate will make it even more difficult to control them when there is a confrontation. The police now are the ones forced to deal with the mentally ill and disturbed and out of control daily. Exhaustive, specialized training protocols and additional police officers are needed. Recent cases and lawsuits in this city alone have shown us that there is a need to improve our performance and capability there. It will be cost effective in the long run when we look at our lawsuits that have been paid out. And just the confidence and just the fairness and just the humanity of it in not killing the mentally ill when it's avoidable and recognizable. And when the hints and the signs